Welcome everyone to our GUC panel. I'm happy to start off our first talk here with Petra Vent. She's the president, or she was the president until 2019 of the Queen Margaret University in Edinburgh. I'm very happy to have you here and welcome to our talk.
Thank you.
Maybe first off, you can just tell us a bit about yourself. In your own words, and just give us an idea of who you are and what you've done and what brought you here.
Thank you. Well, I'm Petra Wend, and as you said, I was president of Queen Margaret University in Edinburgh for 10 years. But before that, I worked for 30 years in the UK in various universities in various positions, starting off as an academic and lecturer in Italian literature and linguistics. Over the years, I moved into management at a number of universities, and as such, obviously became increasingly interested and engaged in the impact that universities can have in all kinds of ways. And obviously in this context, sustainability and climate change is the topic of our conference. And as such, over the 10 years that I was president of the university in Edinburgh, I've worked very hard to convince the university to become even more sustainable than it was. And that for me meant working with lots of people.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, for me to understand, what would you say? Where do universities take a role in fighting climate change? Which tasks do they have, or which role do they take in the process?
Well, for me, universities are ideal institution to take forward that topic and to have an impact. Well, first of all, we are embedded in the local community and we are local employers as well. And we employ, sometimes we are the biggest amount, the biggest employer in the region. Then we obviously educate thousands and thousands of students who go into the world, having an influence as well. In addition to that, we do research, and the research we do is obviously on climate change and related issues. But also as an employer and as a campus and as a building, we can actually do practical things as well to be sustainable. So we do work at a variety of levels, and very often people think that sustainability simply means research in climate change in STEM subjects, but there is so much more to sustainability than what many people think. And if you just look at the SDGs, it is much further reaching than just looking at climate change. It's about personal behavior, it's about social justice, it's about economic fairness. And these are all things that can be taught and researched across the curriculum in a university. So that can be done in social sciences, that can be done in humanities as well. In fact, it can be done in every single subject. And it is about raising an awareness among students and staff about why we are in the world and what we can do to improve the world. So we are really key to have a huge impact in this respect. If I think back to my own university, Queen Margaret University, we were lucky enough that we could build a new campus. And when the new campus was built, not only did we look at a sustainable campus in every way, when it comes to a sustainable urban drainage pond, when it comes to a biomass burner, when it comes to computer systems that save energy, when it comes to recycling of rubbish and so on. But what was also important to us, that we made the campus available to the local community. So the greenery around the campus is open to all locals who come in, who walk their dogs or who just go for walks around the sustainable urban drainage pond, which has become a wildlife haven. So for birds, but obviously also for the recreation of people, of humans. So it is also in this respect that we wanted to draw in the community to show them what can be done to be a sustainable campus and to be a sustainable university. But the biggest challenge has been, and I think this will be discussed at the conference as well, that there's very little financial support for this. And very often, particular staff, colleagues think, well, if I don't have any money, what is the incentive to change the curriculum, to change the content I'm teaching, to do more research in sustainability, or to act differently as well? And I think this is where winning hearts and minds comes in, and where, coming back to what the conference is about, is where university leaders can have a big impact, and how they lead and how they convince the university and their colleagues that we have to pull together and work towards this aim.
Yeah, thank you very much. You already took a lot of questions that I had, but it made it made a lot of sense in that context. So I was going to ask you exactly that question, because like I'm thinking, what resources do universities actually need to fulfill these tasks that you've been talking about? Is it only financial support? What is where do you see the biggest issue in resources that you would need as a university?
I think there are two sides to it. One is the physical side of the campus, and obviously you do need resources to transform your campus. And there it depends what kind of system you have in your country. In the UK, we can borrow money. So we can borrow money to buy a new building, to build a new building, or we can borrow money to change a building, to renovate it. And that is being paid back. So for example, when we changed our energy system to a biomass burner, within 10 years, we were starting to save money. So financially it can be done, but in some countries, universities aren't allowed to borrow money. So it really depends on the system you are in. So that's the physical side. The other side is time. It's basically time. So if you want to take part in rankings, for example, in green rankings, you need to have time to prepare your documentation. It's quite bureaucratic. If you want to convince staff to change your curriculum, it takes them time to write a new curriculum as well. And also, if you want to organize a real sustainable strategy at your university, you need the setup, you need committees and so on. And again, taking part in those, that takes time. And if people have other pressing issues, they don't want to give you this time. And this is really where, and time is money, as we all know, but this is where the convincing people and having energy and enthusiasm comes in, to try and see whether you can't find champions within the university who help you with that, and who help you then convince others as well, just to create a kind of atmosphere that where people and a culture where people do want to take part in, even if it takes time. So these are the two issues, really: time for doing things, and resources for physical changes to the campus.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, just to follow up on that, what would you say, like, how can staff and students get more involved in the measures that are taken by universities to promote it, or to promote it for not only as an institution, as you're speaking of right now, but also for each individual on the side of the staff and the students?
There are again various ways. So first of all, coming back to the university leadership, obviously the leader needs to believe in it. If the leader just does it because he or she thinks it has to be done, it's not going to work. So you need a university leader who utterly believes in this agenda and is passionate about it. So that is important. Then you need to set up the various committees that I talked about, which has champions in them. What is important in this respect is that, and this is a technical issue, if you have procedures for promotion in your university, for example, that include criteria such as taking part in sustainability initiatives and so on, then that is already a very simple incentive for staff to take part as well. But I think it is also explaining and getting people on board so that they believe in it. So for example, sorry if I give an example about Queen Margaret University again, but because we did try to implement it across the board, we involved students in it. So students themselves demanded changes as well. What we also did, we took part in the International Student Barometer every 2 years to see how important it was for students that a university was sustainable. And we found that it was incredibly important. And when we then in one survey found that we were apparently the top in the world for sustainability in universities, according to the students, that obviously made the staff very proud. So my colleagues were very proud and wanted to continue working in this vein. So yes, it is just a survey, and not all the students in the world take part, but it was still a very, very encouraging survey to see that. So it is spreading the word. I remember we also have an organization in the UK called the EAUC. EAUC, in what does it stand for? Association, Environment, Universities and Colleges. That's it. And they are very, very good in letting you have material and letting you have news of conferences that are taking part. And they're also very good at poking the university leaders and saying, look, are you actually taking part in this? And if not, why not? And do you really believe in it? So that organization in the UK is also extremely helpful. And there might be other organizations in other countries as well that fulfill that role to help university leaders, but also to remind them all the time for this to be top of the agenda.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense to me as far as I can judge that. I think for me, an interesting question would also be me coming from the university just a few years back. What role does climate, or the topic of climate change, play in the decision of students when they decide for their subjects? Would you say that there's a and also as a follow-up, maybe how does that influence or affect the curricula? So yeah.
I think it plays a big role for students because students very often choose universities for their communities as well. So they want to belong to something. And if a community can be shaped around, for example, sustainability, it's a very attractive option. And that is important, particularly again for countries where universities can take fees, or even if they can't take fees, where they get finance per student and need to attract students to come to the university. At Queen Margaret University, the students loved the fact that we were a sustainable university, that we are a sustainable university. But what they also liked is how we pulled in the community into the university. So for example, our university was close to a beach. And twice a year, the community, and organized by the university, did a cleanup of the beach. So the students would all come out together and with the locals doing the cleaning of the beaches. And the students loved it because not only did they do something together with their peers, but they also got into contact with the locals. And obviously, this is something they told all their brothers and sisters and their relatives and their friends. So they then again wanted to come to Queen Margaret University exactly because of that reason. So these are activities which can pull you together and bind you together and create a community that you really want to belong to.
Yeah, very interesting because it kind of spirals like almost like a snowball effect. Once you get your students and your staff and everyone involved fascinated or interested in the topic, are motivated to change.
Yes,
It just
it's yeah, and that includes not only the academics and the students, that includes other staff as well. So our caretakers and security staff, for example, their task was looking after the sustainable urban drainage ponds and the wildlife there. So every year we had new cygnets, yes, swans who produce babies. And their task was to look after the babies of the swans. We also had a CCTV over the pond to make sure that the swans were all right. And all students and all the locals were just reported on the cygnets every single day and watched them growing up. And then they were ringed. And in Scotland, all the swans are ringed because they belong to the Queen. So you can then also follow up where they go to. So then the caretakers got so interested in it that they would report back to, oh, we found one of our babies as an adult now on that particular loch lake in Scotland and is very happy there. So all the students were happy as a result. So that's again part of the community, because it's not only the academics and the students, it's everybody working at the university.
That's a wonderful story, because it just shows how it kind of embraces, the whole community around it. And as you said, it's not only the students, it's not the academics only, but the institution goes over, has a broader impact on communities. Yeah, great anecdote. I would be interested, of course. Now we're in a situation. You would be at the GUC right now in Hamburg, I would suppose. You, as someone who's been part of the GUC for quite some time now, and of course, it'd be great to hear what you think the GUC, or in which way the GUC can support the activities of universities and promote sustainability. What would you say is important about this council that we're holding now?
For me, it's important that the leaders of the universities are coming together. And I talked about the importance of leadership in this context before. Very often in universities, it is the leader says, okay, we have somewhere a sustainability champion, and then the leader does something else. It is very much the role of the leader to implement something. So that is one point, that we are all vice-chancellors and presidents of universities. The other one is obviously the international aspect, because we need to learn from each other. And strangely enough, particularly in countries where sustainability is a difficult topic for political reasons, I think we, perhaps in the Western world, can still learn from that, particularly in Western Europe, because they will find ways of coming up with sustainable ideas that we might add to our repertoire as well. At the same time, those maybe who are vice-chancellors in Brazil, for example, might find arguments for themselves to survive in a political climate that is not so easy to make your university an environmentally friendly university, and actually to be a leader in environmental issues. But also at maybe not so important level to the outside world, but for us, meeting is also to share our concerns and to share our tips and our experiences. And that is always something very, very helpful. What we're also hoping is that at the end of the conference, we are coming up again with a declaration that we can all sign up to, and that we then can share with various bodies in our countries. So there are obviously always the university bodies, like the German Rectors Conference, Universities UK, and so on, and that exists in every country in the world. But also other political organizations or climate change organizations, or even local organizations, because our impact is both regional, local, and international. And it helps us to work at all these three levels.
Thank you so much. I think that was a very, very informative and inspiring talk. If you have anything to add, feel free. For my part, I think we have a good sense of what your points are, your views are on that point. And I, as a younger employee, I always like it if the interviews are a bit more condensed and you don't watch 2 hours. And I think it doesn't always have to be the longest one to bring a message and to set that little thought in some heads. So thank you very much at that point.
Thank you. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I also very much look forward to the conference and seeing all my colleagues again, and then seeing what they have to say, and to learn from them, and for us together to instill some more enthusiasm and passion.
Thank you.